Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. As you know, we've been looking at the councils and whether they're doing what they should be doing for people, whether they even should exist, whether they're corporations and all of that. And you'll know that there are a couple of councils that are being very much questioned by some very good people who are concerned about a lot of this net zero policies and other things, which seem to be coming from head office, the government. And even though people don't want a lot of these things, they just blatantly are pushing them forward. So let's find out what's going on in Colchester. You may remember that before I had a lovely Rachel and Carina who've been very much putting the pressure on the council to answer specific questions and reveal what's going on. They have got some amazing videos on their website and on YouTube. So let's find out. So Rachel and Carina, welcome back to the show, and congratulations. Congratulations on all the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because your videos do seem to be going viral, and you showed me some of the numbers in one of the videos you sent me. It's more than I could dream of. Huge interest in this subject. How have you found it going since we last spoke, which was what, 3 months ago, something like that, or more?
Well, we can't go anywhere in England now without getting recognised when we're together. That's taken some getting used to. Yes. We've been to various events and things, and people come up to us, which is lovely, but it's a bit sort of, oh, okay, yes. That's a bit of a shock to the system, but it's lovely. We've met some really lovely people and some people that watch your channel as well. You've got some wonderful viewers. We had a lovely lady come up to us in Glastonbury, and before she left, she slipped Carina an envelope with some money in to pay for our petrol to get to the event, which was just so lovely. So thank you. We were just both sat there with, oh, the people are so nice. So
well, I found the same. I mean, I found the same with people, people recognizing me and all of that over the last year where I've been speaking out, and it's amazing how lovely the audience is. I was worried when I first started doing this that there'd be a lot of pushback, but actually very little of that. So supportive, because people do realise the sort of difficulties that we're in and what we're facing, and as their eyes are opening and they become more aware of these problems, they realise the important role that people like yourselves are doing at the coalface. So it's so essential. So let's find out what's been going on then, because I know I'd watched a couple of your videos when we first spoke about you're going in there quite cold initially, not quite knowing what you're doing, but now you've gained so much experience. You're a lot more organised, and it's been a steep learning curve.
Yes, it has. I don't know that it gets any easier doing it, but we're definitely getting better at getting in there and putting our points of view across, and it's quite an art to being able to get everything you want to say in a 3-minute speech. Although a lovely lady came up to us when we were in Stroud, and she said her council, was it 60 seconds or 30 seconds? 60 seconds. Let's not say that to give other councils ideas, but it's like, what can you say in that amount of time is bad enough trying to get what you want to say in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like being on, what was that programme with the clock?
Just a Minute.
Just a Minute
Countdown.
as well. Countdown, that's what I was thinking. And, you're just trying to sort of do an anagram, but you've got to get so much in. And not only get over the point, but the heart of it, the why it's important, rather than just the speech and all of that. You sent me...
Sorry, I was just going to say, I do think our speeches have improved, but I have to say all of that is not quite as good as it looks on the video because of the editing. So I know in the last one, when we had the emergency vote, the vote for the climate emergency, there's a part in there basically say the word die really loudly. So editing is really important. So well done, yes. Rachel.
Yeah, we do try and take out some of the stumbles, so we're not quite as smooth in real life, but when you're trying to get video to go viral, you don't want people tripping up their words. So you didn't quite get the inclination in that one right, but we got there.
But it's interesting because this is I don't want to use the word weapon, but it is a tool. Let's say the video in order to embarrass, I suppose, or bring to account a council's attitudes, their behaviour, and what they're doing, because you're able to get that out where ordinarily, local radio stations and local papers, they've all disappeared. So it is down to sort of people journalism again.
Yes, we're shining the light on what they're doing, and they get to see the reaction of the public, because especially when the videos have gone really viral, you get all of the comments, and I have sent it to some of the council as well to make sure they have seen those comments. Whether they bothered to go on, I don't know, but you'd think curiosity would at least make them, have a bit of a look. So we're just holding up a giant mirror with a giant floodlight at the same time, and it's down to them to either change their behavior or deal with the consequences with what people think and say about them as a result of what they're doing.
And do you find that they do respond to these the public comments? Do you know if it makes a difference?
I don't know. Some of the behavior has changed, but whether that was due to the public comments or not, I don't know. I don't know how many of them know we do the videos, but that now we've started the new channel devoted, because I started putting the videos on my garden design channel because that was the platform I had. I just thought, I'll just put that one and that's all we're going to be doing. And then sort of 10 videos later, it's like, okay, this is taking over. I'm doing more council videos than garden design videos, so that's not good. So we started up a brand new channel that we're all going to be working on called Colchester Council Watch. And that channel, we are showcasing all of their meetings, because we have sat through their meetings for 9 months so that we can glean information, see who's who, and understand how the council works. And we've got some real personalities in that council, and actually you kind of warm to them when you see what they're dealing with and how they do try and fight for us, because we get a lot of comments that are really quite negative about how awful councillors are, and you think, well, yes, that's very true, but also we got some really good ones. So it's like, actually people need to see this, that they do go into bat for us, and here's the difficulties that they face. So that was one of the other motivations for starting up Colchester Council Watch. So people, one, understand their council, two, get to see who's good and who's not, because oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I voted for people, I haven't a clue who they are. You just pick them and hope for the best, or you do a protest vote, like, I'll vote for you because everybody else has driven me insane. That's not a good way to vote. So if people get to know the councillors as well as we have over the past 9 months, but not everybody's going to want to sit through their 3 or 4 hour meetings. So by just doing highlights, I don't really have to say anything. The councillors speak for themselves. I just condense it down so people get a better idea, and also they know what's going on in the local area and they understand how things work. And I'm hoping that it gets more people fired up to go, really? This is what we've got? Okay, right, that's it. I'm going to be a counsellor. So that's our hope for the channel, that it inspires more people to get involved, because if it's just the same few of us going each week, they just think, oh, that's just them. When they see the public en masse and different faces, then it's like, oh, actually we do have to start listening.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, you said at the beginning how you're being noticed. I imagine that because you're highlighting the councillors themselves, they're probably also being recognised and in unexpected places. If they're in a supermarket buying whatever they're buying, and somebody said, "Oh, I saw you on Colchester Council Watch," I mean, it must bring them to, it must make them think twice about what they're going to be saying or doing, or their behaviour.
Hopefully. I mean, the channel's only just been going 2 weeks, so I don't think it's had enough impact. Been going enough to make that impact. But long term, yes, because if people are coming up to them in the supermarket saying, "I saw what you did, thank you so much," or "I saw what you did, you're a blah 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 blah," then yes, that will make an impact. And also people can really get to know who they voted for, and that I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely, because come next time round, they may not
want to make that mistake again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the videos you sent me, which I felt really interesting, was that you had set rules for the council. We're very used to being rules dictated to us from central government, or indeed the councils themselves, telling us what we can and what we can't do. And it was great to see you there representing the public of your town, saying, hang on a second, this is what we expect from you. And you gave us a series of rules. I wonder if you could go through some of those rules and whether you've had response to them. I mean, they're they're basic rules that anyone, I think, would perfectly adhere to. But it's interesting you had to actually spell it out.
Well, I didn't have to spell it out. I thought it was fair to, because one of the councillors that actually is a very good councillor, he really does go into bat for people. He put his concerns across in one of the videos that he thought some of our filming was a bit unfair. So it was my video response to that actually we've only done these videos because of how the council's behaved and not altered. So that's why we've done what we've done. And then I thought, well, actually, let's really spell it out for them that if you don't want to be in our videos, you need to adjust your behaviour. So rule number one, which is why about the video that he wasn't so keen on, I think, was do not disrespect the public in any way, shape or form. And the vast majority of the council, I'm pleased to say, do get that, but there's just one or two. There's some officers that aren't great, and there is one or two councillors that don't seem to get that. So basically, I gave them the 5 rules, and then after each one said, if you do, you'll be in a video. The second one was a pet hate of, we've sat through umpteen meetings where they have said, we want to elicit behavioural change within the public. So I basically said that's not what you're here for. We don't pay you for psychological manipulation, and don't do it.
So hang on. Let me just go into what that actually means. They want to elicit behavioural change.
So they will do things that encourage a certain behaviour. So, for example,
is this like the nudge unit of central government, sort of nudging us towards certain things, taking medical?
Yes, they don't want us to be in our cars, so they're putting in lots of bicycle lanes, and they're basically not allowing you to drive your car at some point. That's one of the plans through the town centre. So yeah, it's little things like that that really annoys people. So yes, I've told them not to do that.
Yes. For who are they to tell us?
Well, precisely. As I've said, look, you're meant to be serving us. You're not meant to be trying to control and manipulate us. That's not what you're here for. So it's spelling out the basic things, because they've been told from the higher ups that, you've got to change the public behaviour. So I'm just setting that record straight. No. We want you to do the bins. We want you to provide housing. We don't want you to
terribly boring, but that's your job.
Basic things. Get that right, and then we'll have a discussion. If you'd like us to do things differently, we can talk about it. But don't put these things in place. It's psychological manipulation. So I pointed out, don't do that. Rule number 3. Do you remember what that was?
I don't. But I do remember the bit I liked about your different rules is where you've edited and there's one cut. Otherwise, you'll be in a video about it. Cut spoken.
Okay. So it's various things like that, and also sort of not
disrespect.
We've done that one. Not to be bickering. We don't care about their politics. We just want good services and infrastructure. Don't be bickering like small children, because if you've ever watched council meetings, once it gets political, they're sort of mudslinging with each other rather than dealing with the issue. So anyway, it was 5 rules that I came up with. That were serve the public. That's right, public interest.
Oh yes, I remember the last one was the most blatantly obvious.
Yeah,
is serve the public.
Yes,
and that really is just to remind them what their role is, and we could say the same to the government.
Yes, because if they don't, I basically said, look, those of you that are serving the public interest, you've got nothing to worry about with these videos. But those of you that aren't, well, you're going to be on the receiving end of behavioural change techniques, and you'll know firsthand what it feels like. So that was the sort of banter backwards and forwards. So yeah, now they've got no excuse. Whenever there's poor behaviour, it'd be really highlighted in those videos. But equally, when they do really good things, that will be highlighted. So we are encouraging good behaviour versus bad behaviour. So
yes,
they can have some of their own medicine.
Unbiased as much as you can be, the videos that you make. So if, as you say, if they do good stuff, and they remove the plant pots in the middle of the road and don't go to 20-mile-an-hour speed restrictions, those sort of things, then that's a great decision, because if that's what the people of at the end of the day, it's what the people of the town want, rather than what the council want, and I guess
it's helping to discipline them with sort of super nanny at the council techniques. This behaviour is good, you're going to be rewarded with a nice video. This behaviour is not so good, we won't tolerate that, and highlight that for the public.
Well, I've been saying for some time that we need to have put the council on notice that we're watching them, and that's effectively what you're doing, so that the rest of the public can understand and learn who they are. Because I think in recent times, in the last 20, 25, 30 years, we've forgotten the connection of what the councillors' roles are in our town, and we very much sort of just acquiesced and let them get on with things. And we found actually that's not really the best policy. We do need to know and also tell them what we want as well, which I think doesn't happen as much as it ought to.
Well, this does. And also when they do stuff, we were playing with Carina's computer yesterday, and I found a whole load of things on iMovie that I didn't know existed. So there's all these sort of comedy sounds and alerts and alarms. So whenever they do something really stupid, it would burp, burp, violation, rule number 5 has been broken. Immediate verbal spanking is to commence. So we can make them quite amusing videos as well, and really so they know as soon as that alarm goes off, it will be like, oh no, what did I do? So we're going to have as much fun with it as we can while still being respectful, because that is also important to us. When we've asked for comments to be, by all means, attack the point of view of the politics but not the person. So we want it to be a good communication, and we want a good relationship with the council. But right now we're just trying to establish the ground rules, so it's a little bit handbags at 20 paces, but we're hoping it gets to a good relationship once we've established those ground rules.
And there is some balancing sound effects as well. There's a lovely round of applause for good behaviour. So we're hoping to bring some audio entertainment to the videos as well.
Oh, brilliant. So now you want this, and I think this is a good idea, you want this to other towns, other people to sort of do the same sort of thing, because it would be great if they can do that and, again, as we say, put them on notice and see what they're doing. How difficult is it? How time consuming is it? Now, I know what video stuff is like, which is why, as I said before we started recording, I try to get everything in one take on my videos as much as possible, because I know the editing can be a headache, especially if you're new to it. How much of a learning curve has this been for you?
Well, I've been doing videos for 14 years, so the editing stuff is second nature, but even so, it takes me a long time. The ones that take me a really long time are when we've done our presentations to the council and we're cutting in images so that people can see what we're talking about. So they take ridiculous amounts of time. But just the meetings, well, you've got to sit through and record the meeting and then work out. I write down, and so do other people in the group, something really juicy was said at 11 minutes 25 seconds. So we've got a list of, okay, I'll put those clips in, and it's joining them together. So it is time consuming, admittedly, and that's where it helps having a team of people watching those videos. But what I have now started to do, because Carina asked me yesterday, have I got any tips on how to speak to the camera and the editing? So I did a training course a while back that taught people how to make online courses, and in that training our videos on video editing. So I'm in the process, actually, while we speak, of uploading those videos to Colchester Council Watch, as well as a tips video on how to speak to your council. And we've got a Dropbox folder with all the speeches we've ever done, so all resources, and that'll be on the channel. So if people want to do this themselves, they've got all the tools and techniques. Now, you don't need to speak to camera like we're doing now. You can just edit and leave it as is if you're shy, or you could just do the editing and then do a voiceover. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to, but as I've already got those videos made, I might as well upload them and share them with people. So we're hoping that the whole country, if not the whole world, everybody does this to their local council, because when there's dark things happening, if you shine enough light on it, it makes it very difficult. So that's what we all need to do, and local people need to know what is going on, and most of us are clueless, because who reads through what the council are doing? Who goes to meetings? Not many.
Yes, and they can be quite well. I'm sure they're very tedious, because they could go on with lots of arguments and rabbit holes that you go down, deviations, and come back to the point, and all of that. Where do you get the footage from? Are you at these meetings? Do you film it, or is it filmed by the council that you can have access to?
A bit of both. When we're there, we film it as well, because it's nice to do some different camera angles. But mostly they live stream it.
Right.
Now, I never use their footage, because just in case they get precious about it, what I do is a screen recording of that video playing. So therefore, It is my footage I'm using.
Yes, That's very clever. So, and they don't mind, councils then don't mind you filming the meetings. I mean, they're public meetings.
Well,
presumably.
apparently they did used to, but one of the councillor Laws, who I was actually doing that video response to, he messaged me later to say, good video response. I didn't realise all the reasons why you were doing what you were doing. And he did actually say he was the one that was responsible. He was outraged when a member of the public tried to film a meeting and was thrown out and stopped. So he actually got them to pass a motion that people were able to come in and film. So thank goodness. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do half the videos.
If you're thinking of doing this for your council and somebody's watching this thinking, right, okay, we're going to do this at our place, is that a hurdle that they're obviously going to have to overcome somehow to be able to film without being sort of, crappy filming from a phone?
It shouldn't
discreetly.
be, because it's a public building and you are allowed to film in public places. So that's why that councillor was upset with the council, because they were doing it. That's not correct. If you're in a public place, and it's also they are public servants, so yes, you can film it.
Yes. So,
but if they live stream, you've got no problem.
Great. No, I just wanted to ask that because sometimes people go, are we allowed to? Are we allowed to? And people are so often, we need permission to do things. And very often just go ahead and do it and ask questions, ask permission later.
And this is the mindset shift that we need for people to realise that they're the ones with the power and the authority, and the councillors are there to serve us. We just need to make our voices heard and let them know with evidence backing up our claims to the resistance we have for some of their policies and actions they're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. The other video you gave me, which was fascinating and I thought was definitely worth talking about, is how much control the actual town council has over things and how much they are lent on or told what to do from government. Because that was quite an eye-opener on, it seems to me, that actually the government are coming in, pressurising things to be done. And you had situations where even the town council was saying, actually, we don't want to do this. The public don't want to do it. But the government are basically saying, well, you're doing it come what may.
Yes, the video you're referring to is one on planning. So whilst we're going to be doing weekly updates, like here's what's happened this week, I thought it would be good to do a few background videos so people understand how things work. So the first one I chose was planning, because the first meeting I sat through was a 3-hour one and my jaw was just ricocheting off the floor with people coming up with these really sound arguments as to why they can't do things. And then the officers turn around and say, well, no, you can't allow that because X, Y, Z. So with planning, I don't know about the rest of the council, but certainly with planning legislation, they have to have grounds to turn something down. So councillors can't just use common sense because they live somewhere and they know that road's too narrow. If Essex Highways, for example, have said, no, that road's fine to put in 50 houses, don't worry about it, it's only 100 cars, no problem. The councillors can't then turn around and say, we know that's a problem, that road is too narrow, it's not safe, because they're not the experts and it's been signed off by Essex Highways. So they have no grounds to turn down that application. If they do, they themselves are then negligent. And if the council then there's a planning appeal, the council then, if they are shown to have not followed planning procedure, they would have to pay the costs of the person that's filed the complaint. So the guidelines are good in some instances, because you don't want councillors just turning stuff down because they've got a chip on their shoulder. So you do need some structure, but it works in quite a negative way. It does seem to be when they want to push something through, like a solar farm or more housing. And, we do have a housing shortage for sure. We've got people living, I think we've got 230 people in Colchester that don't have homes, and they're dotted around. They're really not in good conditions, so they do need a home. But at the same time, the councillors need to weigh up about the people that are living in that area as it is, and they're just going to make it more and more congested. And it's been a while since you've been to Colchester, isn't it, Richard?
Yes.
It is unbelievably congested. It is congested beyond the capacity of our infrastructure, and that's not been down to the councillors. They've had to, because the government have said, you need this number of houses go in, and they clear the way, basically, that more and more housing can go in. So that is part of the frustrations for the councillors, that they have no choice in some circumstances. If it's on the local plan and it's in the government guidelines, it's very, very almost impossible for them to refuse an application.
So what I don't understand then is it's that they've got the option to refuse, but they're not allowed to refuse it. So that just seems like an oxymoron, rather than saying this, you've got to do this, rather than saying you've got the choice to turn this down, but you can't turn it down.
Yeah, they can turn it down as long as there's good grounds. But what the council officers then do is say, no, that ground doesn't count. You're not allowed to use that one. So they're basically, you've got a good hand of cards, and then the officers come along and say, can't use that one, or that one. Oh, look, you've got no cards left. Sorry,
right.
You're going to have to pass it. That's how it works. Because with the solar farm, for example, the Secretary of State had deemed that you can't turn down a planning application for a solar farm on fire, health and safety grounds. That's got to be considered a neutral in the decision making.
So it doesn't matter if it catches fire?
No, it doesn't matter the fact there's 2 primary schools just down the road and 400 people within 400 yards. None of that counts. You can't turn it down on those grounds. Right. Because the fire department will pass it, and if there's any problems, they will flag it up. So it's not down to the councillor to make that decision, even though they don't know what type of battery it is, because some batteries are more flammable than others, so it may not be a problem. But they're just not the key things that you would think that they can turn it down on. They say, nah, you can't. So when they really want to put something through. Now, there are circumstances where the councillors get the upper hand. I haven't had a chance to show that yet, where they will throw all of that rules and regulations back at them and say, well, you do realise this development isn't meeting the new LTN 20 or whatever the standard is. So they do sometimes get their own back, but it's only temporary, because at some point that is going to be pushed through.
Right. Okay. So that it does seem a very unfair system, and presumably these people who are saying, well, it's fine, you can't use that card, you can't use that excuse, you can't use those grounds, they don't live in the area. I'm guessing.
They do, but they probably don't live. Like, there was a meeting the other day where the councillors are saying, well, what brick are you going to use on that house? That is, aesthetics are important. And the council officers just turned around and said, that'll be fine, it'll be a lovely brick. And I was tempted to do in the voiceover, I don't have to look at it, and neither do you, so don't worry about the bricks, it'll be fine. You just kind of want to drop in those kind of comments, and I may well when I come to do that video. So that's the type of thing. It's like, no, it's fine, just pass it.
It's been a real insight into the actual practical workings of council, which is far removed from our presumption of a democracy, that people have a say and they're there to serve us. So the level in which it has been quite shocking. The amount of central control at a local level is really quite shocking.
You can have your say, they just don't listen to you.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is what I find. I don't interact at the moment with the council here where I'm in Worthing, and I sit down and I pontificate on my channel and say, sort of, why don't the people just make the council obsolete? How practical is it then to if everybody in the town wants to do something? How can they really make that difference happen if the government or the councillors don't want to do it?
That's tricky. What we're encouraging people to do on the channel is set up. If everybody in Colchester donated £1, we could fund all of the councillors and anyone that wants to run to be a councillor to do all their advertising and all the leaflet drops for them. So they're out of the political parties, because a big obstacle to them serving us is because their masters are their political party, who have paid about £5,000 to have their leaflets printed. Teams of people go up 6 weeks before delivering all those leaflets. That's very difficult for the average person to do. So if we club together and get rid of the politics and just have good people in place making good decisions, then we're a big step forward. Now, how much we can do legally, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But I would think if you've got enough good people in there just saying no, or saying to the officers, find a way around this, we're not going to do it this way. There must be some loopholes that if you've got the knowledge, that you can maneuver, or you maneuver in a way that allows you to do things that are much better. I'm sure you could improve it by at least 50%, if not 100, with enough good people in there that aren't being controlled by their political party. Because there's a clip I put in one of the videos where someone's saying, we didn't want to vote. I've always been against charging for green waste, but here's why I voted for it. And you think, what? He said, I haven't broken the Labour whip in 31 years. Now that to me says I haven't served the public well in 31 years. Like, what the heck are you voting things for that you know are not good for the community? And it's because, they've had all their expenses paid by their party, and that needs to go.
Yes, and they made that's a public statement.
Yeah,
which is quite laughable. How many people do you think? What's the population of Colchester?
It's just under 200,000. I think we're about 190 something.
And how many of those do you think are interested and active in even just listening and looking? And
31%, because that's the number that turned out to vote. So nearly 70% of Colchester is so demoralised they didn't bother. And that's not a sign that, we trust you, you're doing a fabulous job. That's like, oh, what's the point? Because we haven't even got who we voted for. In Colchester, we voted for Conservative Lib Dem coalition. But the Lib Dems don't like the Conservatives, so they just took over because they've run it in the past. Normally they run it with Labour, but the Labour leaders told them, you can't buddy up this year. So they just took over the council themselves with a minority. And you think, well, it's not surprising people don't vote when this is, in our minds, an illegitimate council. But everyone's just carried on. It's farcical. So that needs to stop.
And there was a question I had that just drifted away into my head. Are people aware that the council is corporations and those sort of things, that they're there for? They're not what you might think of an assembly of people who have voted in.
My suspicion is people aren't aware of the real workings, looking down in the law, because we're not really taught it at school. I mean, I certainly am familiar with the name Magna Carta, but I've got no education, as far as I can recall, on how that's applicable to our lives today, what rights we have under our constitution. So I think there is a lack of awareness, which we're hoping to highlight over time.
Yeah, I'll be doing a video on their finances. There's no point in doing it now because they're behind with their accounts and they're coming out end of December. So as soon as I've got the new accounts, I will go through it and I will enlighten people as to this is how much debt they've got. When they say they haven't got any money, they're not kidding. And
so many councils are going bankrupt, aren't they?
And also, lean up.
Do you want me to shut the door?
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So also, I will go into this is a limited company. So once I do that deep dive into their finances, and I shall compare them to all the other councils because we've got similar ones. And Colchester, when you compare them to the others, it's really shocking. So I'm looking forward to doing that video, sort of, apart from the fact reading their accounts is a nightmare. So yeah, we'll certainly be covering this is a limited company and all their other limited companies because they've got several. It's not just the council that people know about.
Right. Yeah. And well, you'll work this out. So many councils are close to bankruptcy, and have admitted bankruptcy. I don't quite know what happens at that point when a council becomes. Is it that somebody can say, well, actually, I'll buy your council for £1, and we'll claim all the public buildings, thanks very much, and we'll put in our own staff.
I don't know. I suspect the taxpayer gets stung even more and has to bail them out. But I don't know. I mean, there's some confusing things because as far as I know, if you've got a limited company, you're not allowed to have your pension pot in the limited company. Yet all of the councils do. And like Colchester Council it's in debt by about 98 million? Yeah. And then you're thinking, what is your pension? Because you haven't invested it wisely. Why is that in the books? That get your pension out the books, but why do councils get these special rules? So that I need to investigate more. But yeah, it's really quite shocking when you go through their finances. On paper, in the last set of accounts at least, Colchester is solvent because they've got so much property, but they haven't got any cash flow. It's only solvent on paper, and there's everybody living in those houses. So we're not as bad as some councils.
No. So if if they're solvent in property but they go bankrupt, did they have to then sell that property and turf people out?
They could probably get extra loans on top of those, so
and get into more debt.
Probably, yeah. I mean, Colchester don't have as many Lobo loans as some of the councils do, but they've still got some where they got, there's a website where you can go and research your council. It's very out of date, but at least you can see what debt they got at a really cheap rate, and then that debt then goes up. I think they can put it up to whatever rate they want, and these debts, they'll be like to 2075, so they're long-term debts, so they're really bad. So those need consolidating. But if you try and leave early, you'll get a fee for that. So whether they can debt restructure, I have no idea.
So this is really interesting and exciting because. And I say exciting because we haven't really spent much time scrutinising what our councils do. Most people, obviously councillors probably understand all this sort of stuff, but if you're just the ordinary average man in the street, and yet it's affecting you, particularly now more than any other time, I would argue, with the restrictions and things that are coming in from government. And it's good to know what the machinations of the council are and by how much they're in debt and whether they're going under and what that happens if it does and all of that. And it seems to me that what you've got there, this concept of Colchester Council Watch and your town Council Watch, if people set it up, is a real way of saying, hey, look, and not only are we watching you, but you've got to start pulling your socks off and actually be accountable.
Not all the councillors know. I watched, again, this was another jaw ricocheting off the floor moment. The previous head of scrutiny admitted that he hadn't looked at the council accounts. And you think, you're the head of scrutiny. Surely you know what the accounts are. Now, I know his colleagues have, because the leader of the Conservative Party is an accountant, so he knows. And I've certainly seen some of the others in the Conservatives trying to get answers and trying to get the latest set of accounts and not being able to get their questions answered. But that's the other reason for doing this deep dive on their finances, because every single person in that council needs to know the financial situation. So when they come up with these stupid ideas of, we're going to flood this part of this marsh that nobody wants flooded and it's going to cost an extra 48,000, that they really understand the situation, knowing that the council hasn't got any money versus knowing just how much debt they've got. And if they really don't have any money, I'm hoping will hopefully lessen the number of really stupid things they want to spend money on. And if they don't know the state of it, they will by the time I finish this video. The whole world's going to know the state of their accounts.
What's the situation like in Colchester regarding council tax and people's either just arrears because they can't afford it, or those people who are challenging whether it's right and proper? Do you know?
They had quite a heated discussion on that. They get very cross if people don't pay their council tax. And funnily enough, there's a notice on the Colchester Council website that don't fall for the free man of the land scam.
Oh, they've got it as well. It seems to be on many of the councils.
You won't get away with it. But then they're right. You won't get away with the free man of the land. What you have to do is challenge the summons, because the summons are unlawful, because they haven't been signed by Justice of the Peace. So we know several people that are going through that process. In fact, we went along last Thursday to support somebody who was going through it, and that was quite entertaining. Oh yes, you were the Mackenzie friend, weren't you?
Crazy. I did say, you sure you want me? Rachel's here. As this other guy knows lots of stuff, but she's like, no, you sit with me. Thankfully, and I did know, she has she lacked confidence, because it's scary, isn't it, when you've got all this conditioning to be afraid of the courts, but she handled herself really, really well, and I just got to sat there. It was me maybe who's getting a little bit, how dare they
for those people that don't know, just to explain what a Mackenzie friend is.
You're a legal advisor that isn't qualified, basically. So you can go along, and if the person's sort of basically reminder, this is how it is, etc., and your job was to point at the note she'd already made.
Because you can't talk for them, can you?
I wouldn't be able to address the court myself, but I could pass notes or say something to help. I'm not sure any of my suggestions were helpful. She had it all covered, but interesting experience.
Yes, and I imagine that courts at the moment, I mean, the fact that they've got this, you can't use the free man on the land, have been overwhelmed by people doing that. Hence, it's appeared on there to try and push people off. But as you say, challenging the legitimacy of the summons, which is printed on on council paper rather than court paper, starts to open another can of worms for them, which is
absolutely. There was evidence that it wasn't a justice of peace because the council had admitted that it was a legal advisor who'd signed it.
Oh, right.
So it wasn't, you have to have all the evidence there, and you have to have, a good education into what the process is to not become unstuck, I think. But it was interesting that there was a legal advisor within the court who advised the magistrate, and it didn't feel like accurate advice because of the research we've done. But I'm sure the courts and their legal advisors all have to be under the impression, either aware or not, that that's how things run. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do what they do.
But oh, hang on, I'm going to shut that dog up. Lena, come here, come on.
It's normally me that's the noisy one.
You see, no editing.
No,
on my videos.
Yeah, I mean,
people
aren't questioning. I mean, it's not a case of not wanting to contribute. We all feel we've got to contribute. It's the fact that they're doing it unlawfully. They're not agreeing. We're not agreeing to what that money goes to. Whereas it would be much better if we had essential services that we all contribute to. And then there's like nice things to do that we could crowdfund if we want to do X, Y, and Z, so that we're just paying for the absolute essentials and they're not basically blowing our money on whatever the heck they fancy. That isn't what people want. So that's why the challenge is. It's not because people are being skinflints.
No. But I mean, you want a lawful society, and you want the council to act within legislation. I mean, they make, the government makes the legislation and says we've all got to obey by it. But if they can't obey it themselves, or they're not honouring the whole point of it, then penalising people because they're struggling with the council tax. It makes a whole mockery of the democracy in the first place.
Yes, so, well, technically speaking, so say if I came over and cut your grass, and then you think, oh, thank you very much, and then the next minute I put a bill through your door, you'd be like, oh, well, that's a bit cheeky. I didn't agree to that. In the eyes of the law, technically, because we didn't agree, we didn't have a meeting of the minds, that is a gift, me cutting your grass, because we didn't agree to it. So everything the council are doing, it's a gift because we've not agreed to it. Even if we need that service, you might have needed your grass cut, which is obviously why I did it. But that's the point. We've got to have this agreement that's what we'll do. And then if I was saying, right, I'm going to send the boys around, Richard, if you don't pay that bill. Oh, and by the way, next week it's going to be twice the amount because, my costs have gone up and I'm doing the whole neighbourhood. You wouldn't be very happy with that. And the law is on our side. They just don't know it because the magistrates get in the way. They're told that we do owe it, and a liability order has now gone through, so it's up to the next stage. You just got to keep challenging it at each stage until the people have got control back again, and then we agree, here's what we're willing to pay for, but your other silly little projects, you're going to have that crowdfunded. So that's the aim of it.
Yeah.
And also the amount of waste and fraud. If we're not making them accountable and they're wasting all this money, it all ends up on our council tax bill. We've just had letters recently that we're now going to have to contribute to the collection of our garden waste. Some people's response was, right, we're not having our garden waste collected anymore. But ultimately, that needs challenging because it's extorting money from the people, is my firm belief, because they aren't managing it well. They haven't had the input for many years. So these systems have been allowed to get to a point where it is very challenging for the people, but we're on the case.
And all of this, what the bottom line is, this should be, as you said in your rule there, serving the public. It should be all for the public good, not about collecting money, even though they don't seem to be able to spend the money wisely and get themselves into a huge amount of debt.
But like you said earlier, Richard, they're a corporation. So although we're all led to presume that they are here to serve us, if they're profit driven, that will.
They're clearly not profit driven. Have a look at their accounts. They are not for profit.
Well, in terms of getting money in,
might be incompetent comes to mind. I mean, there's no rule about being an incompetent business, is there? I suppose.
Absolutely.
It's just that the public are paying for it. They continually have it and forced to pay for incompetence where they're spending money and got into debt. And I mean, I think my council was something like £150 million in debt. Somebody sent me a thing saying that's what it was. And you think, well, if that's the case, and maybe you could be going bankrupt, I don't know. But if you are that incompetent that you can't make it balance or it's not coming down over a number of years, then don't penalise me because I'm paying the council tax. You know, that you don't just say, oh, well, we need more money. We're going to continue to spend that money and we don't care what we spend it on. Then it's not the poor person paying the blooming thing. And ultimately, people would be very happy if it was just a fair, nice, gentle system. And that's really, at the end of the day, all people really want.
It's very hard to gauge the measure between incompetence and corruption. But I feel that there's probably both going on. And the only way that either of those are going to stop is intervention, educating them and forcing behavioural change.
I think my spelling of incompetent may also have spelled corruption. I was being nice, giving them the benefit of the doubt, but you're absolutely right.
Well, I think, there's enough in the public domain, although people aren't shown or highlighted to, there is enough out there that gives evidence to all the corruption and incompetence. And the sad thing is that the taxpayers, not just now, but ongoing and in the future, are going to pay for it unless we make changes.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. Now, when I first started to watch and got in touch with you, it's because you were challenging the council on the NetZero policies that were coming down from government. How is that going?
Slowly.
You mean to tell me that they have eradicated all the NetZero? They've not eradicated, and now.
Well, it's taken me since August to get a reply to an email. It finally got one today, and it wasn't the most satisfactory response. We seem to be going round in circles that they believe there's the climate emergency and they believe what they're doing is justified. And we keep going back to saying, yes, we know you believe it. We can see you believe it because of all the things you're doing. Could you provide us with the evidence? Because presumably you didn't all spontaneously wake up one day and think, oh, it's an emergency. There's a climate emergency. We must declare it. Presumably you had something that triggered that. Could you give us that something? But they don't seem to be able to do that at the moment. But the good news is that members of the public went in last week to the scrutiny panel, and as luck would have it, the leader of the council was next to them. And they went in to ask, who is it within the council that doesn't want a public meeting? Because we've been calling for a public meeting to discuss all this for months, because there's only so much you can do in a 3-minute time slot. And because he was there, he was able to then go off with the 3 people that asked. And in principle, they have agreed to a public meeting in principle. So what that actually means is we've probably got an awful lot of hurdles to jump over, but at least now it has been agreed in principle. So we've got to find somewhere to host it. They've got to agree to the speakers, and they want it balanced, so both sides of the argument. So what we're going to suggest is that they provide, because they've got the Green Party in Colchester, they've got ties with XR, they can provide 2 experts that can give their side of things, and then we've got ours that can also do the same. We've got some very qualified people that have worked in the UN and had their work used by the IPCC, so highly credentialed experts that have a different point of view, because the whole of the council has admitted they have not listened to any dissenting viewpoint. They've just gone along with mainstream.
Shocking.
I know, but part of what they're meant to do is look at all the available information, and they clearly have not done that. So that's what we're asking for. We're not requiring anyone to change their mind. We want them to look at both sides of the argument, because we've all been here before. We've all been lied to rather a lot. So, just in case this turns out to be a weapons of mass destruction incident, we'd like to look at their evidence just to double check.
Yes, we don't want any Dr. David Kellys disappearing in the woodlands at the end of this.
No.
I mean, that is shocking that they've just taken on board and not looked at any other evidence. I mean, the science is fixed.
They said that out loud.
They said it out loud. It is boggling. And you wonder how many other councils, of course, that have just are in the same boat.
The other 300, but weren't we all taught as children? Just because one person does something doesn't mean to say that you do it.
That's right.
I'm sure in my era that was drummed into you that you do the right thing with evidence. But anyway.
I'm not sure children are being taught that these days. I think
probably not. But there's enough older generation in that council that should know better than jumping on board. And with the last council vote, 17 voted against the climate emergency, which would not have happened a year ago. So because they're seeing, the environmental destruction that most of these green tech sadly do, and the more you research it, just the worse it gets. The more they are thinking, oh, actually, no, we can see this isn't the right way to do things. So we're gradually getting there. But how many other people felt the same that were in political parties that were forcing them to vote in a certain way? Who knows? We shall see.
And the public meeting itself held somewhere which obviously members of the public can come along to. And they listen to the speakers. What happens after that? Do the councillors just go away and go, well, we're doing it anyway? I mean, where is the lead?
We will see what happens.
We have a card up our sleeve.
Right. Don't reveal that then.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And all we can do is give them the information, because we are of the firm belief if they knew what we knew, they probably wouldn't be doing what they're doing. And if they are still carrying on that route, then we've got the expert evidence, because that's the thing. That's the one key part of this. Whoever the speakers are, they must have actual evidence, not conflated models or opinion, actual evidence to back up what they're saying. So that's the parameters of the speech. We're not interested in people's opinion. We want the evidence for the public to look at. And we'd like 300 people there, so that it's a decent amount. And then if we can live stream it as well, so much the better, so that the whole of Colchester can see it and decide amongst the public, what's to be done. Because so much money is being spent on things that, will they make a difference? I mean, that is one answer I've had back on my emails. I've said, to any of the policies, what difference will that make to global temperatures? And it was like, well, probably, none really. And you think, well, why are you doing it then? That's misappropriation of public money, is it not? So, we just constantly keeping them accountable and pointing out you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. Your own rules tell you must look at all the evidence, and you haven't looked at it.
Yes. I mean, I'm surprised, to be honest, I am really surprised that if Colchester don't follow these net zero methods, that China's going to, fall apart, really. Zero, I mean, with your nearly 200,000 people there not burning quite so much CO2 or whatever it is.
Well, if they do go ahead with the CO2, then they're going to have to put in their budget plugging all the world's volcanoes. Otherwise, it's pointless.
I wonder what you plug up a volcano with.
I can think of a few things I'd put in it.
Yes, certainly a few politicians maybe. That could help. Although they've got enough hot wind for themselves, it might.
No, they blow the whole place up if we put a politician.
So I'm gonna wind up the interview. It's been absolutely fascinating. But you're obviously working very hard. This takes a lot of time and dedication, and all of that. Do you have time to do anything else, the pair of you?
Well, we fit our work life in around what we're doing with this, because this is more important. I can be advising people on what paving slabs to put in their garden to make it beautiful, but that seems a bit of a there's more pressing things to do. So we have in the last few videos sort of said, look, if people want to contribute to help us with the running costs of this, here's a link, please contribute. And people have been very generous, and you were as well, Richard. Thank you so much for your contribution. That was very welcome. Very, very grateful.
Well, I was going to keep that quiet, but
no, I'm not going to let you get away with that. So you were very generous, and you know what goes into this.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. Well, and of course, I'm more than happy to help with as much publicity, but although it does seem that you're getting the message out, which is fantastic, and the videos are going viral, which is brilliant. But for those that are watching this video and are keen to follow and learn from you, Can you tell me where they can? I will put the links in the description, but sometimes YouTube change the links, so it's good that it's verbal as well. Where can they find more information?
If they go to Colchester Council Watch, they will see the new channel with all the videos, and I've put the playlist in from my Successful Garden Design channel, so all of the videos are in one place. And
is that .com or .co.uk?
No, that's just we haven't got a website. We're just on YouTube. Although I think I will probably do a backup on Odyssey actually. We'll be on one of those. So if they can't find us on YouTube, go to Odyssey.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, I'll put the link in anyway.
Thank you very much.
But ladies, Carina and Rachel, thank you so much for telling us about it. It's very exciting to see it, and I'm hoping this will inspire others, as you say, to put the councils on notice. We are watching you, we are listening, we are challenging what you're doing. And if you're doing great stuff, then all well and good. You know, everybody wants their council to do good stuff. But if there is a bit of incompetence or corruption or just stuff from the government that nobody's asked for, then we do have to push back. Absolutely. So I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see what the comments are. It's a pleasure as ever. Do check out Colchester Council Watch, the YouTube channel. And if you are thinking of doing it, do let me know, because I'll be more than happy to talk to you on the channel here and promote it as much as possible. So there we are. That's from us, another wonderful interview. I'll be back with more monologues and, of course, interviews. But in the meantime, from Carina and Rachel and myself, thanks for watching and goodbye.